Welcome to the 100 Proof Show with yours truly, Jay Wesley. This is the 110th episode, and tonight's topic is going to be cocktails and justice. Why was a black bartender fired for wearing her natural hair? Hashtag in Atlanta. Hashtag at the Red Martini. The Red Martini is a upscale nightclub in the Buckhead area of Atlanta, Georgia. For those of you that don't know Buckhead, Buckhead is the top richest zip code, one of the top richest zip codes in the nation. So we're going to be discussing, Talia should be joining us later. She is one of the bartenders that wore an afro to work and was sent home. What would you have done in that situation? What should she have done in that situation? Is it a matter of safety and health by having the hair off the shoulder and ears? So we have experts in the room that's going to discuss this matter with us. And we're going to start with the hospitality expert, the hostess with the mostest, the lovely Leanne. How are you, Leanne?
Hey there, I am well. Thank you so much. How are you, sir?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for joining us on such short notice today. But tell the people who you are, Leanne. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I'm loving Leanne Foster, business professionally. I have a company called Euthenics Foster Professional Development, where we teach people how to treat people. And this is one of the examples of something that we speak on and that we touch on, professional standards. And then I'm a radio personality as well on AEG Radio Network. We're a Kingdom broadcast station. And that's who I am. And I'm actually servicing a client as we speak. So I'm wearing a couple hats.
All right, there it is. I appreciate you always making
But I was
time
so
for
glad
me.
to be invited.
What are you sipping on tonight, Leanne? Is that a beer?
Say that again, I'm sorry. Oh
What are
yeah,
you sipping
I'm
on?
Angry Orchard. You know, I'm Angry Orchard. And so I'm a lightweight and I'm actually working, so I had to choose wisely. But I definitely wanted to make sure that I adhere to all the expectations.
All right, excellent. Thank you. All right, I'm going to put you on mute. And we're going to go to Jason. Jason is our HR expert. We're going to be asking you, do these things happen in the workforce across industries? And how should people handle them? How should the manager at this or the owner, how should they prevent this from happening in the future? How do you address a worker who is not meeting your style, grooming, expectations? But Jason, before we get into those questions, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
So, hello, everybody. My name is Jason Hayes. I am currently working with a manufacturing company based out of here in Atlanta. I serve in a lot of different capacities. I dive into diversity and inclusion, which is now diversity, equity, and inclusion, because without diversity and inclusion, guess what? You ain't going to have no equity. Trust me, on so many levels. And I like to get into the community, give back, pull my sleeves up. I'm an ex-veteran. I am a father. Actually, you can't be an ex-veteran, can you? I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran. I'm a father. And, I just like to make sure that people receive the messages and we know what we're doing and we're being cautious on what we're doing from both sides. A lot of people think that HR is not really there for the people. We actually are. But there are ways to approach things from the company side and also from the employee side as well.
Jason, it's an honor to have you. We look forward to the HR perspective on this. For our viewers that's just joined in, we're talking about cocktails and justice. Why was a black bartender fired here in Atlanta, Georgia, from her bartending gig for wearing her hair natural? If you want to tune in, go to Facebook, go to YouTube, ask your questions. Or wherever you're watching us right now, ask your questions, and we're going to get to them a little bit later. We apologize for coming on a little late, so we will be staying just a little bit later as well to make sure you get the answers that you need in handling this situation. Our next guest is my frat brother from Beta Chapter of Howard University of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the best fraternity in the world. Brother Adams, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, my brother, and thank you. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Let me tell you, before you introduce yourself, I was in DC a couple of weeks ago, and this brother cooked for me, and it was off the chain. So he's a chef and a bartender, so I gave him it up just a little bit. But Joan, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a chef and bartender, like you said, but I've been in this industry for years. Even when I went to school at Howard, I worked at Houston's in Georgetown, so I've been in this industry for a long time. And my first thought when I read the story was, well, what about individuals with beards right now?
Right.
What about individuals with ponytails?
Right.
How does that come into play? I literally tripped out. I mean, I can understand, for lack of better words, not to be disgusting, if it was a hygiene issue, if, hair was getting in the drinks, hair was getting in the glasses, but it doesn't sound like something was the case like that. So it really just tripped me out as to how this individual got away with that. What was his thought process to make that type of determination?
Right. So, Brother Adams, there it is. You took us straight into it. So, you have locks. I used to have locks. I had locks for 17 years. Have you ever faced discrimination due to your hair?
No, I haven't. I mean, at my establishment, and like I said, I cook at home. I always pull my hair back. Okay, I keep it out of the way. That's why my thought process went to right now. We're in the beard days. What about gentlemen with beard? What about bartenders with beard? What do you say about that? I could put a bandana on. I could put a hairnet on. Even if my sister had an afro, she could have run it back, put it off the head. That makes no sense to me. That's
right.
Sounds like an individual had a personal problem with black hair, a lack of understanding of black hair. A lot of people do. It makes no sense. Now, was that the first time she came in here like that? What were the other bartenders wearing? That is just my thought process.
And that'll be one of the questions we ask her. Brother Adams, you have a sound issue. I'm not sure if maybe the volume up is too loud, but we're getting a lot of feedback, and I believe it may be coming from you because I've already muted.
I have nothing on. I hear it too, though.
Yeah, I'm just hearing a lot of feedback. For those of you that just tuned in, we are using a new software, a new platform, so I apologize for any technical difficulties. But we're going to move on and fight through this feedback, for where the feedback is coming from. But Jason, we're going to go to you. From an HR perspective, what were your thoughts? What went through your head as you first heard about this situation?
So when I first read what she posted, my mind went to an investigative mode standpoint. That's generally what happens. I would love to put my personal feelings into it first, but I can't, right? But as I always say, I'm a human first and a resource second. So, because when I'm looking at what she's saying and the derogatory comments that the manager made, no matter what the environment is, no matter it wouldn't matter if she worked at an adult center, adult place, corporate America, or in this case a bar or a lounge. She should never have been addressed with those comments. And so just if I had to just dive into this and say, hey, what would you have done first? First, I would have had to call her up personally from an HR standpoint, and let's be honest, it depends on if that company actually has an HR representative, right? Because a lot of places, and when you're talking about the restaurant and bartending industry, there's not a lot of them that have a true HR component. They're like, hey, as long as we got somebody to handle payroll, then we're fine. You know, they don't really, have a true officer to handle employee relations like this. But that's where you pay a consultant, right? You bring in a consultant to help with something like this before it goes into a lawsuit, because from an HR standpoint, the job is to protect the company by any means necessary. So what could have happened is and this is just an ideal situation, just based on what I'm seeing. The manager first should be apologized. He should have been docked for that day, and he should be suspended. Okay, and she should be paid for that day, plus probably with an estimate of tips, since that's the way she makes her money. And then there needs to be a formal written statement and put into the folders of each person. One for her folder just to document what happened, and she needs to give her side of the story. But two on the manager side, because this could lead to other things. If he's comfortable talking to her like this, I can only imagine what other things he would say. And I really want to just kind of push it away from the hair for a minute, because it's not just about the hair. It could be the race. It could be the culture. It could be, you know what I mean? There are a lot of things, because you have a lot of different people who work in this industry. So what if she was Latin and, I don't know, maybe she might have been talking to another friend in Spanish. And I've seen this happen before, where people of the same culture start speaking in the same language. And people will make derogatory comments. No, when you're in here, you need to, speak English. That's not fair, right? Because of equality. So I'm totally floored. Now, when I have seen this, and even in corporate America, not necessarily in the bartending scene, because you would think you could get away.
Hold that perspective with the corporate America. We'll come to that a little bit later. We're gonna get to that. Let's go to you, Leanne. And for all my guests, I want you to mute your phones when you're not talking, or your computer when you're not speaking, just for to eliminate any extra noise. And then when I call on you, or when you're getting ready to speak, be sure to unmute. So Leanne, we're coming to you, and make sure you unmute. And so Leanne, you kind of manage bartenders. What were your thoughts when you heard this? How would you have handled this situation as a manager? If is someone wearing an afro? Is that an issue? Give us your perspective.
So my perspective is going to come from a perspective of 360. One, I don't want to be down on the floor to see this particular incident and just make a judgment call. It has to be emotionless. And so I encourage all businesses, as the HR expert was talking, I don't care how small your business is, you need to have a business guide, an employee guide that sets your standards. So when you have these situations, it's not about feelings, it's about facts. I go to the book and I go to our policy and procedure and say, your hair must be this. This is the uniform. And so it's very cut and dry, and it doesn't have to be touchy-feely. And so as most of the companies that I've represented, because I've already told them, I need you to put something in place so it won't be individualized. Most of them have something in place to say, what is it that you want? What do you want your people to look like? What do you want your people to wear? And so then you can clearly see violations, and it doesn't have to be conversation.
Leanne, you're no stranger to the hospitality industry, such as myself and Joan. Mm-hmm. And Jason, you even touched on it already, where I'm going. A lot of bars, nightclubs, restaurants don't have these type of HR guides or handbooks. And so assuming that maybe they did not have one at the Red Martini, and this person did not meet their expectations, how should they have handled it, Leanne? Or how would you have handled it if this was day one as a manager and they don't have a guide yet, and the owner tells you that he wants that bartender to go home or change her hairstyle? What would you have done? How would you have addressed it?
So absolutely. One, don't just tell people what you feel. Give them a reason of why it's important. Give them the why factor. So understanding that everybody's been in a restaurant, and most people at some point have had hair in their food, and immediately disgust. You're disgusted. You don't want it, whether you want to continue to eat there or you're just kind of like, I lost my appetite. So I would have approached her with unfortunately, just because we're in the restaurant industry, and if you've never worked in the restaurant industry, hair is important. And though I particularly like your hair, I looked at her picture and I was like, oh, super cute girl. And probably was a crazy hella bartender just because she looks gregarious and like she can, you have to have personality to be behind the bar. So just looking at her, I was like, oh yeah, she would be somebody that I definitely at least want to entertain, but I wouldn't mind asking you to pull your hair back off your face because we're in a food establishment. And with that being the case, we definitely don't want to lose money because we're remaking drinks or even have that trust. When you get dirty silverware, when you get a menu that's nasty, when you get any little hiccup in a cycle of service, you start to lose trust. So now it's a hair in my food. Oh my gosh, what's going to be next? Oh my gosh, what's going to be next? You're going to be making drinks all night. And then don't let a patron sit two seats down and hear the confusion. Then they're like, oh, this is my way in. So I've had 8 martinis, and on that night when I'm like, I had hair in my drink too. And so you lose a lot of money in that way. So I still would have approached her. When I read the comments, that's the problem that I had the most with is how you address it. I don't care what you're addressing. There's a professional manner in which you talk to people and what you say.
So it sounds like all of the panelists are in agreement that hair should be pulled back in the hospitality service industry to prevent hair from getting into one's food or drinks. It seems like if the issue is as far as addressing it. So Jason, go ahead.
Technically, I understand what Leanne is saying, and that's just that would just kind of be a courtesy, as Joan was saying earlier. When he's in the kitchen, he pulls his hair back. He preps for that. So that's just something that if you've been in the industry, and you do. But if in certain establishments, it depends on where you're at. It's sometimes encouraged to be a little different, And I'm not gonna lie, when I was at not too long ago at Dave and Buster's. We had a waitress, her hair was out in its natural form and she had in 2 different color contacts, and I didn't care. I mean, long as you say, long as hair is not in my food, that's fine. But she didn't even deliver my food. Right. I think where we're at, especially in our economy, we need to be comfortable in our authentic selves. Because it's not just black hair that sheds, okay? It's not just all us, right? And so I say be your authentic self, unless, like Leanne said, there is a stipulation, there's a rule, there's a handbook, okay, that states, hey, if you come into this establishment, this is ABC 1, 2, 3. I remember when I was in school and we talked about employment law, that one of my favorite go-tos. So I was the only one in the class. They said, hey, can a establishment fire you or terminate your employment for certain things such as hair, weight, et cetera, et cetera? Everyone in the class, of course, they were like, oh, no, they can't do that. No, that's wrong. No, they can't do that. Depending on the state, depending on the establishment, they can, because you're pretty much like an actor, right? You're going to create a scene, you're creating an ambiance, you're creating something, an experience, right? That's like going to medieval times and seeing the people on a horse ride around in biker shorts and a t-shirt. It's not really giving you that medieval experience. They have to get in full character mode. So when you're going to work, no matter if you're a bartender or you're in corporate America, you're going into full character mode, right? And so if they set those boundaries up front, then that's fine. If they want her to pull her hair back, let her pull her hair back. But the derogatory comments is the part that floored me. That's the part that my jaw truly dropped. And from a personal standpoint, I know what I would have done.
We're going to get back to that. Joan, I want to come to you because one of the things in my personal conversation with Talia, and hopefully she'll be joining us tonight. She said she may have some difficulties as she's in class, but she said that there were other Caucasian bartenders
Right.
with long hair that were permitted to wear their hair down. But she was asked to, told her hair was ugly, told to put it up or go home. What's your thoughts on the other bartenders being able to keep their hair down and they're of the other persuasion?
Well, that was my issue. I mean, I wrote it down because I want to come back to it. A lot of bartenders, even if you have a uniform, you make money off of your character. Okay, whether that be wearing extra buttons or pins, whether that be your hair color, whether that be your beard, because I used to work for the Clyde's organization, Old Debit Clyde's corporate organization. They have an HR department. Okay, everybody wears a uniform, but you are allowed to express yourself a little bit in certain areas, in certain ways, and bartenders do that with their hair, with the color of their hair. Like Jason said, with color contact lenses. Those are conversational pieces, which gets you talking to your customers, which gets, makes you money. So my issue is, like Leanne said, it should have been in the handbook. If your hair extends over your ears, I was ROTC, if your hair came down to a certain length, you had to cut it off. It was in the handbook. I blame that on the organization, and like we all said, the manager had issues. I want to be a manager. I want to be an owner. I think about these things. I literally would have said, "Oh, we didn't put this in our handbook. Let's make it through this shift and talk to her about it after the shift, or pull her off to the side and be like, look, could you pull your hair back? We don't want to get any hair in any glasses. We make the kitchen staff wear hair nets. I'm not talking about your afro. I mean, let's pull it back." But I would do the same thing with my white bartenders. Put that bad boy up one of those crazy buns. Okay, I don't care. Get it out the way. But that's why I also brought up the issue, because I've had a lot of people say it. You pull your hair back, but what do you do with your beard? Okay, for a lot of male bartenders. And now, we're in that beard age, that beard saga, and you go to any bar, there's some white boy there with a ponytail with a beard. So if your issue is about hair getting to glasses, okay, you need to check everybody and check all of that. But if your issue, it sounds like that wasn't his issue, and that is what we're addressing. I mean, and that is, that's everywhere. He had a problem.
Interesting.
I mean, if I was her, knowing me and anybody who knows me, a bartender, I would have went off. I probably would have threw something and then walked out. Because I'd be like, "You out of your damn mind." And then I probably would have threw the handbook at him too.
Joan, we didn't ask you earlier, what are you sipping on?
Oh, I'm on mezcal tonight. I'm not a vodka drinker. I'm either bourbon or mezcal. I got sick of drinking beer because it put on too many calories. So I'm not going to stop drinking, but I'll stop drinking beer.
And Jason, what are you drinking? We didn't ask you either.
So I got my water and my orange, not my orange juice, my apple juice. I got my colors all wrong. I got my apple juice and my water.
So Joan,
just trying to.
Joan, I want to come back to you for a second. I know you said that you've never faced discrimination for your locks in the restaurant industry, but have anyone ever had to approach you to do corrective action? Corrective action meaning ask you to pull them back or to put them up or something of that nature. And how did that make you feel, if so?
I mean, there have been times where I've been a few minutes late to work, or sometimes when I walk into work, I just go straight to working. So I don't notice it sometimes. So I've forgotten to tie it back. There have been times where, because, I work in the industry. I pride myself on washing my hands all the time. But sometimes I might sneeze and I might need to get a correction. Oh, go wash your hands again. I got no problem with that in this industry. Okay. Now, if you're talking about me, cut your locks, that doesn't look professional, then that's an issue. Okay. I can say that I've worked at a bar and we had coworkers that had locks and stuff. Our issue wasn't the locks, but we've had hygiene issues with coworkers. Okay. And I'm like, I don't care about your locks or your beard. Just wash it and take care of yourself. We've had those issues. and we've had to address those with people before. But I don't. If somebody said, "Oh, you need to shave, you're looking a little bit raggedy," I understand. Like Jason says, we're in a hospitality industry. Okay, I understand. Being told to clean up a little bit. You can't be a slob, depending on where you're working at. If you're working at a hole in the wall, you can do whatever you want. You're working at a corporate establishment, you have to adhere to their rules. But the thing is, a lot of times corporate establishments have those rules laid down in print. It's your smaller bars, your smaller establishments, your new pop-up nightclubs that don't. And the other issue, which we didn't talk about, is the issue with men and women and how they wear their hair. Okay. And how women wear their hair versus how men wear their hair and how people are allowed to do certain things. So those issues also need to be talked about. Because if you're going to do it, you do it right. But if you're making judgment, oh, he doesn't look right with that hairstyle. She doesn't look right with that hairstyle. That's where, there's some type of prejudice or judgment that's going to play.
Right.
So, Jason, I want to come back to you with some of our followers. I'm reading the text messages if y'all see my head down. Whereas, I'm putting you on mute. All right. And so we have Toki, who's a celebrity bartender here in Atlanta, Georgia. She says, shouldn't all of the bartenders pull their hair back? They were behind the bar flat ironing their hair, meaning the other bartenders were flat ironing their hair. So what's your thoughts on the fact that the white bartenders or even Latin bartenders who have straight hair, not curly textured hair, were able to wear their hair down, and not just wear it down, but they were able to flat iron their hair behind the bar? Is this enough evidence, in your opinion, that this is blatant discrimination at this point toward the Black bartender, Talia?
Well, I think the discrimination actually started before the hair part. To be honest with you, just what he said alone, the damage that probably have been done to Talia now is horrible. And I'll be honest. I mean, if you go look at a lot of my pictures that I've taken, within the last year, I actually had hair on my head. I've been in corporate America for quite some time, and as a veteran, so I used to always keep a low cut, keep a fade and everything, keep my face clean because I wanted to appease my audience, right? But then I got to a point where I said I don't want to do that no more, and I let my hair grow out. And so I kind of started this whole air quote natural hair journey, right? And I admire people of any race, especially African American race, who has dreads and who do their hair natural and it's long, because that's literally a process, and it literally takes time and everything investing into that. And like I said, my hair was longer a couple of weeks ago, and I just cut it off because I was like, I don't have time to deal with this right now. But is that something I did for corporate America? No, I did it for me, because this is a time where it needs to stop. It needs to stop. If we have to accept everybody else's rules and regulations, let's talk about women who always have to cover their face, right? And they have to wear their I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, from India. Joan, you know what I'm talking about because I see it in your eyes. But let's talk about the women who have to wear that. Do they make them take that stuff off when they come to work? No, they respect them for what they're wearing. Or, let's go into the Birkenstock shoes, or the ones with the little holes in it that everybody wears everywhere, and that's notorious for, certain cultures, right? Do they make them not wear those? No. I mean, they say if your feet's covered, you're fine, right? So if we have to accept your rules and your religion and everything about you, why is it now an issue for this young lady who and I don't know what her hair was like before, we just go by the pictures, but why does she have to then straighten her hair and put on this whole demeanor for a corporation, or not even a corporation, but a job that probably doesn't even pay her enough money not even helping her reimburse through tuition reimbursement or anything, and there's no clear indication from that establishment that she has to have her hair blonde or red or black or anything. So this is a case where I feel like the establishment need to formally apologize to her on so many levels, and that manager, as though I hate to have to put somebody out of an opportunity, a job, if you will, but if you're talking to her like this, it really kind of worries me from an HR perspective. What are you saying to other people? What are customers hearing? You know what I mean? Like that,
right.
The whole
Jason, I'm very surprised to see you take the role that you are, because one thing that you don't know about me, and a lot of people don't, is that I have a short stint in HR, and I have a master's degree in HR. And I find that most HR people are afraid of the things that you are speaking about, meaning apologize to the employee.
Mm-hmm.
So like you it's a couple of other things that you've mentioned where it's like I feel like most times HR take a blind ear to it, like let's just hope this go away, let's not say nothing, because our admission to this happening with any apology is an admission of guilt, which can be used against us in court. So it's very interesting. I've had many issues with many different places, and you go to HR, it's hard to get them to take a stance against the manager. It always feel that HR is on the manager's side. And one thing, having worked in HR, I understand that HR, I tell people this all the time, HR is not always on your side. Their job is to prevent liability. So, they're going to listen and be nice and kind and make you feel that they're on your side. But at the end of the day, they're and somehow in cahoots to not saying too much or saying the wrong things that can be used against them in court. Any thoughts on what I just stated, Jason?
So that's where I said earlier, it depends on the reaction. It depends on the reaction of the employee. It depends on the reaction of the manager. They always say, they don't. I don't know who says it. I've heard it amongst the network every once in a blue moon. It is harder to replace a manager than it is to replace that employee. Does that make sense? So you want a manager. The reason they're in management and in that leadership role is for a certain reason. They were picked for a certain reason, and it is generally hard to replace a manager because there's a lot that go into management, as I'm pretty sure the panel knows. But to replace a bartender, that's, we can do that. We put up our now hiring sign on the door, and guess what? You got 5 applicants. Now, is that right? Is that the right way to think about it? No, because as I said, HR's job is to protect the company. Now, this could lead to a lawsuit. I'm just throwing it out there. If she really wanted to push it and she followed the chain of command the way she's supposed to, this could lead to a lawsuit in which the company does not have a leg to stand on. So the question is, do you want to worry about a manager that you're paying X amount of dollars to, or do you want a lawsuit that could, in court costs get crazy, but if they don't settle out, or do you want a lawsuit that supersedes the amount that you're paying the manager, right? So
right.
It depends on how you look at it, because I've seen these cases all the time. And so what HR ideally is supposed to do is they're supposed to come in and be a mediator. They're supposed to come in and say, okay, what happened? Give us your version. Give us your version. Were there any witnesses? You do a full-blown investigation. And then at the end of it, then you determine the best course of action. But if you have one employee who's sitting there and she's practically in tears, you have a cook that's probably standing behind her, he's hearing everything, and then you have another employee that says, hey, I heard that and I seen that. Well, then we have to address this, and we have to address it quick.
So Leanne left, but Leanne, if you're there, I want to ask you. I see you over there. You came in on another platform. So Leanne, is this a common issue that Black women face? in the hospitality industry or just overall in corporate America? I'm sure you have friends that work in corporate America. Is this something common that Black women face, that they can't wear their natural hair on their jobs?
So I believe
Or
as
is it
we're
new?
going
Is it
forward,
due to our president? Is it due to the social justice movements that's happening? Is this something new that's happening? Is this always been the case? Like, fill us in from a Black woman's perspective as much as you can.
so one, okay, love being a Black woman, but I also understand business. Every brand has what they want to project. I've worked for city government who had a very, very strong policy that said, these are the colors your hair can be. This is the color your hair can't be. They showed you shoes that were acceptable. It was so elementary that they knew exactly what brand they wanted to project. Airlines, the same thing. So you have to understand the culture that you're going into to understand what the expectation is. Now, as we're moving into another level of acceptance and people really needing to understand that a part of my hair, braids in my hair, when kids are getting sent home from school because they have braids in their hair, and it's like, is it still neat? Is it tamed? Tell me the problem that you have with it. As we're moving there, yes, a lot of individuality is being factored into the culture of many places. But what we have to understand, Black, white, Hispanic, Smurf, Piggy, whatever, is that when you go into an organization, that there are levels that require conformity. You have to accept those. And that's why I love the entrepreneurial journey. When you don't want to do what somebody else wants you to do, you don't have to conform. But for a person and they understand and know what their brand and what brand they want to project, you can't really be mad at that. It's about when you get into the middle of it and then they start changing rules based on who you are. That's discriminatory.
Wow, that was powerful. That was deep. Joan, what's your thoughts on what Leanne just stated? Have you seen any Black women go through this, or piggyback on what you heard Leanne say? Any thoughts?
Well, my first thing, I was like, you're gonna have Leanne talk about Black women's hair? Are you out of your damn mind? That's a whole nother conversation. We all saw
I think
School
we're up to
Days.
like 4 curse words, Joan.
You said I had 12.
Yeah, we got 12. We got
But
12
no.
curse words. We're at about number 4. You're doing good. You taking everybody's 3.
Mm. My mom's already told me I couldn't, but I'm sorry, Mom. I'm upset. My bad. I messed up. You know me. But I've seen it. But like Leanne said, it depends on the industry. I'm bringing it back to just this situation. If there was no handbook, then you really can't have the argument. But if you have your handbook, like I said, I was in Air Force ROTC. Okay, you had to cut your hair. I have been in, such situations. I've even worked in, when I was a chemistry major, I worked in laboratories. You had to cut your hair so you didn't start a fire. Okay, you know what you're getting into. The issue with this case is, one, it's in a lounge, which seems kind of weird that you would really worry about somebody's hair in a lounge, and then how he addressed her. Like Leanne said, I mean, when you're going into a certain situation, you should know what you're signing up for. But in a situation like this, it seems kind of weird. Have Black people been discriminated against because of their hair? Oh my God, yes. Have they been told, that looks nappy, get out of school? Oh my God, yes. But that has nothing to do with this issue right here. The issue right here is how he disrespected her. And does it happen in industry? It happens everywhere. It really shouldn't happen in the bar industry because that is like a free form industry. I find it weird. I see it more in corporate America, telling people how they need to look and how they
Or even if
should
it was
look.
a hotel
But when
bar,
you
like
work
I
at a
think some
bar,
hotel bars, a lot of people
really
don't know where I work, but I bartend at a hotel here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well,
So it's more of a
than a hotel
corporate
bar.
atmosphere. But Leanne, I want to give you the opportunity to counter John. Joan, Leanne.
Don't call me John.
I couldn't unmute fast enough. I could not unmute fast enough. So
Coming
when
for
you
you,
opened up
Joan.
and you said, wait a minute, you have Leanne to speak on Black women hair. Do I not qualify to speak on Black women hair? Please finish.
Oh no, you do. You just don't have enough time.
Oh, okay. Because I was look.
That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother big topic. That's a whole nother
I was like,
conversation.
what do you mean? So I don't qualify?
No,
Okay. Thank you.
You're perfectly qualified.
Yeah.
That's just a whole nother night.
It is another night, but let me tell you. So even here, like I went to the car, I took my hair out of my thing because I am in a restaurant right now, and I want to honor them as I'm on their service team and I'm interacting. So I know that there are times where, like I said, you have to lean in a little bit, and there is time for conformity. I just hate that we as a society are so absolute. We're so extreme and manic. Something has to be all good or all bad. There's a time for conformity. I'll tell you about an interview that I went to with an airline many years ago. And when I got there, there were many people dressed. I couldn't tell them from the people that already worked there. Like they knew the culture in and out. They looked like flight attendants. They were dressed in their navy blues. They had those ugly little heels on with that funny little heel, that ugly comfortable shoe. I mean, they were there. I went in a yellow dress. I remember my dress was cute. I just didn't look like them. I didn't fit in. And I know my skill set. I know what I bring to the table. But I know that they didn't see in me what they wanted to see in their employees. And for that, I didn't get the job. So if we don't accept that you have to dress for the job that you want sometimes, in this case, and I kind of missed sort of some of the conversation, but in this case, my first problem will be, how did you address her? And was that kind? Was that courteous? And was that professional? That would be my problem with the management team. Then, yes, is there a handbook?
Is it a fireable? Would you fire your manager for it, or is that a write-up, or is that just a speak-to moment?
Never absolute. Yeah, let's not be so manic and absolute. Is this the first time? Many people, we would all be fired from somewhere if we were just based on one incident. We would have all had to hit the door. Is that egregious enough? And then offense is kind of subjective. One person's offense. I ask people when I meet you and I have to work team with you, I say, how do you like your feedback? You like your feedback in front of people? Some people like, give it to me and let me know, give it to me right away. And other people are like, no, let me know in private. So when you factor all those different aspects of the conversation in, but you would definitely know that you were reprimanded for speaking. If you said her hair was ugly, what gives you the right to say someone's hair is ugly? Who are you? Are you the hair police? And that's me. And profession isn't feelings, it's facts. Let's stick with facts, and then we won't get all that little warm and fuzzy, and we won't have some of those problems.
So, Jason, I want to get your perspective on this. Is this a fireable offense for the manager? If you were the owner of this nightclub, would you have fired the manager over this?
That's a good question. And I want to address a point that Leanne just stated before I even answer that question. She asked, how do you like to be, how do you like your feedback? Right. And you said, do you like it on the floor? Do you like it, in private? From a no matter what industry you're in, personally, I always feel like it needs to be done in private. Always. Because you don't need your audience. Once again, you're in a performance. You're doing something that does not need to, interact with the experience that your customers are having or your employees or anybody, right? So not saying that you're completely wrong, because that is a great question. How do you like your feedback? I tell people, I'm a visual learner. Don't send me anything to read. I'm going to make it past 2 sentences and it might hit the trash. Okay. So I get it. But you said, is it a fireable offense? I think if you read most handbooks, they all say it's all terminable. But here's my thought as I read this: if he felt comfortable doing it once, he's felt comfortable doing it before. Does he have prior complaints in his file about this, or have somebody said something about this before? Because you have to nip it in the bud. It's a teachable moment. If it happened once, I can't even say twice, once, because I have zero tolerance for stuff like this. So is it fireable? No. If he says, well, you know what? I said what I said. You can't make me apologize for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then I'd be like, yeah, you're right. You did say what you said. And I'm going to say what I say. Have a nice life. We'll mail you your last check, because that's not the establishment and nothing that we want to portray. Because especially now in this time of social media, that place could have had 500 customers. Now they might be lucky if they get 5, especially if it's heavy with African Americans who come and visit the establishment.
So I'm going to take a moment and read a few of the comments that we're getting online. Lee says, unfortunately, this is not new. She also says, yes, many companies want to promote a particular brand or look, but let's not just brush off the fact that look is rarely a natural Black look. I like that. So Leanne, she's kind of tagging on to what you're saying, but basically saying it's never includes a natural Black look. So Leanne, I'm going to be following back up on you with how you feel about that comment. Lee also says, and that's something that Black women face and deal with or accept every single day. Toki, she's one of our premier celebrity bartenders here. Toki, if you're watching, I sent you a link to join us. So please dial in. I would love for you to tell us your 2 cents on this, but I appreciate your comment. Toki said, I spoke to the owner. It was the owner that said these things, then sent the manager in to try and apologize. So thanks for that clarification, Toki. So that's some of our feedback. If you're watching, please go to Facebook, go to YouTube, and write your comments down. If you're watching, send us your comments, send us your questions so we can address them. We have maybe about 15 minutes left on air. So I want to get some of your feedback. Toki, please dial in. But this is an interesting topic, and since Leanne has left, Joan, I want to come to you and ask you, what do you feel about what Lee said as far as she understands? I'm not sure if Lee is he or she, but Lee said they understand that a company has its look, but that look rarely ever consists of a natural look for ethnic people. So Leanne, you have left for a moment. I told Joan I was going to him, and I'll come back to you, Leanne.
And I was just thinking about that earlier. When we talk about a lot of times, we will have, even with, white or Hispanic bartenders with straight hair, they're fine keeping their hair down. But it's something looked at if you have Black natural hair, an afro or dreads, that is looked at negatively. Okay. And that, I think, is what needs also could be addressed, that I guess that we're trying to talk about earlier, that it's that African American Black hairstyles are the ones that are looked at in a negative view, negative mindset. They're looked at, like we said, I'm growing up. Oh, they used to call it nappy. Nappy is just kinky, baby. It's just the same thing, but it's a negative connotation, which makes no sense. Like I said, I worked at bars and restaurants where if you're white, your red hair is right down here. If you're Hispanic, your straight hair is right down here. But if you're Hispanic with curly hair, you have to put it up. If you're Black with curly hair, you have to put it up. So I think, a lot of the issue is with the Afrocentric look that a lot of companies have problems with. And it doesn't get me. It should be, can you do the job? Okay. But I don't know how we address that, because that's been going on for years, decades.
So Jason, what's your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on that, and I understand, because here's the problem. people associate the person as a representative of the company. So imagine you have two managers, right? And they could both be the same, ethnicity. To one manager, it might not bother them. To the other manager, it might bother them. Both managers are representatives of the company. So it's not the company who's saying do this. So when you think about a banker, right? And it goes back as an example, when she went down to interview for the airline, she walked in, it looked like a whole bunch of flight stewardesses in there. They had the costumes because that's pretty much what it was. And she said, I'm going in my power yellow dress and I'm going to own it, right? I say when you go into an interview, be yourself, because that's going to tell you if you're going to actually fit into the culture or not. When I went to go interview, when I worked at a financial institution, I wore a navy blue suit, a tie that pretty much went everywhere, and I walked in and I had to look. But then again, I also like dressing like that. That's who I am, So I've naturally fit into the environment. Do I get laughed at from my friends sometimes? Oh yeah, they'd be like, "Dude, you are black," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know," but who says what black is? Who says what white is? Who says what Indian is? I mean, I think, if ancestry.com, say, hey, we'll do free, backgrounds for a week, guess what they're going to find? Nobody's originally 100% anything. And I think we're at a stage in our economy right now where we just need to drop all this crap, because I'm not going to steal any Jones cuss words. I'm going to let them have, my 3. We need to drop all this crap of I'm this and I'm part this and I'm part that and I'm part this. Somebody asked me one time, they said, well, what makes you a expert on diversity and inclusion? And I said, if I took you around my family, you wouldn't know what culture I belong to. I've been, some cultures even assume that I was actually part of their culture, it depends on what happens if I let my hair grow out. It depends on, the haircut, if I've been in the sun, a lot of people assume, but why should that be the basis on how I treat you? That should be non-existent. Personally, I don't care, about the cook cooking my food. I just want them to cook the food. If you go to a lot of these restaurants, I bring up Juicy Crab, right? That's owned by, Asian, Vietnamese, Korean. But sometimes you'd be like, wow, they must have a black person back there until the person comes out from the kitchen. There are tons of places you can go that you think, oh, I'm getting that authentic cuisine. Like this person has to be from here. This person has to have been cooking this their whole entire life. No, they went to Le Cordon Bleu. They got their degree. They did some traveling. They like this certain genre of Italian food or Chinese food or Mexican food. And they started cooking it, and then you're going there and you're thinking you're getting this authentic dish. It's, yes, somewhat authentic, but the person who prepared it isn't authentic. They're a whole different thing. So we have to take the blinders off, and that's literally that keeps us separated. And we as African Americans, we do it to ourselves, and that's the worst sometimes when we do it to ourselves. Why do I have to have a buy-in? Corporate America is the worst buy-in place for African Americans because they give you that look. As soon as you walk in, they're looking at you like, why are you here? And you look, why are you here? And what are you doing? Are you going to top me? Okay, maybe we can become friends. No, we can't become friends because you might want. I mean, it is the worst. And for the guys, it's horrible. But for the women, oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm like, it's like, I don't like her. Why? You don't even know her. She just started yesterday. I just don't get a vibe. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I digress, right? We have to stop this, right? And then if somebody's there, and this is what I even say about with the George Floyd thing and everything else, if somebody's there to stop it, stop it. Do what you have to do. Say something. I'm not saying hit him over the head with a bottle. That's probably how she felt, but don't do that. If you are there, say something. The fact that she went and talked to the manager, that's a great thing. I can't stop what somebody's saying to me behind closed doors or behind my back. I really don't care because I can't hear it, out of sight, out of mind. But at the same time, if you feel like you're bold enough to say it to my face, and this is just me and some of my all types of ethnicities come out, because I'm kind of like Job, where could this have gone? If it's me, and I've been threatened by a manager before in my career, and I looked at my manager and I said, you're gonna let him talk to me like that? And she just kind of shrugged and said, I say, oh, this is what we're doing today? Okay. And I'll let them have it, you know? And I didn't care about my job because at the end of the day, you could pay me $5. I don't care. You could say certain things. I don't care. But when you cross certain lines with me, I don't care. I need the respect more than anything else. The money will come.
Leanne, I want to give you the opportunity. Thanks, Jason. That was powerful. Leanne, I want to give you the opportunity to address Lee. And Lee clarified for us that Lee is a she. So she talked about the look that you spoke of earlier. And the look for most companies never, ever includes the naturalness for Black women. What's your thoughts on that, Leanne?
So yeah, and Lee, thank you for the dialogue. Absolutely. So we do know that the needle has to be moved, that what society has said was beautiful, what society has deemed appropriate and acceptable, no longer do we want to be in that cookie cutter mold as Black people. I totally understand and agree. And I tell people all the time, I can be pro something without being anti anything. I am so pro Black. I am so proud of who I am. Every cell that makes me up, I'm proud of it. I do understand, depending on my goal set, is depending on what I present. And I'm not talking about not being authentic. I'm going to be my authentic self every day. There's some parts of me that will not change. However, I do understand when there's something that I want and that person or that company has an idea of the candidate that they want, I have to determine whether or not I want it bad enough. That doesn't mean I don't have to be myself. I tell people all the time, I've worked in doctor's office, girls with big hoop earrings. I remember the doctor saying, oh my gosh, she wears those around a way girl earrings. I need her not to wear those and be at the front desk. So with that being the case, you have to understand where you are and what that person wants.
Long fingernails.
With the long fingernails, that's not something that some people want to project. But let's be clear too, that ain't Black. Like when we put these definitions of what's Black, who comes up with that? I've been told many times I'm not Black enough. I've been called white girl pretty much all my life by people that look like me. But I've never been as mistreated by anybody other than people that look like me. If the white people had something to say about it, they said it over there. But Black people, right here, white girl, all this. So I'm good with me. I'm not going to change the way I speak. My speech pattern is whether you hear me excited, whether you hear me in church, whether you hear me on the radio, whether you hear me turned up.
It's always the same.
I'm always the same. I'm okay with me. However, I do understand when I speak as a speaker that when I'm in front of different audiences, I may have to expand my vocabulary. I may have to bring my vocabulary in. That's not knocking who I am. That's me being able to converse and interact with anybody on any level. So we do have to understand where you want to go. So one, where do you want to go and do you want to be there? Is it important enough to conform to the culture? That's a decision that we have to make individually. And then when you think, I want to be my authentic self, what makes you authentic? Does fingernails make you authentic? Like, really? Okay. I can be authentic with a hat on, with a scarf on my head. You can see, if you go through my pictures, you see me sometime with my hair tied up. You see me sometime with somebody else's hair on my head. Sometimes you see me, there's a whole lot. But who I am naturally is who I am. And I don't have to apologize for that. Yes, society has to move the needle. And we have to understand that there's no cookie cutter for people to show up and look a certain way. But we all know, because we're very hypocritical, and you see somebody with baggy pants or somehow dressed, and automatically you come up with what you think about this person. But studies show that within 50 feet, people come up with about 13 ideas and factors that they think about you just by the way you look. So I say, dress the way you want to be addressed. I still believe it. It has some balance that has to come with it, but I'm not going to go to an interview looking like I'm about to go to the club with my girl.
Not that it would probably be any different. I'm pretty lame, so I don't even have that much versatility.
So let me ask you, and this will be one of our last questions. Is this a protestable moment? Seeing that we have all the social justice movements going on, should the people of Atlanta create protests to boycott or prevent people from going to the Red Martini? Joan, let's start with you. Is this a protestable moment?
I mean, the major reason I say no is because it's not all the information. Protest the Red Martini, no. Ask for that manager to be dealt with, yes, because all we know are his comments. Okay, and even if it was in your handbook that you can't have your hair like that, his comments were wrong. It sounds to me like there was no handbook. So I can't really blame the Red Martini for not putting those things in place. I can blame them for how they deal with the manager. I can blame them for how they deal with him making those comments, because that's what I have the issue with.
Right.
I mean, you look right now at all craft bartenders. Everybody's hair looks different. Everybody has a bow tie. Everybody has an apron. Everybody's setting themselves off in different standards. But you don't want to be talking like that at any restaurant, and that makes no sense to me. That's the bottom line. So I wouldn't boycott the Red Martini unless they did not address the situation.
All right. Well, I can't say I called the Red Martini and they hung the phone up on me, because in all fairness, I believe in a balanced broadcast. I attempted to give them an opportunity to defend themselves on this call, on this broadcast, and they declined by hanging up. So, but Leanne, let's go to you. Is this a protestable? Should people go out and march and protest and boycott the Red Martini?
So this is why I'm not popular. I'm so sick of the cancel culture. I'm so sick of every fight isn't yours. Like, we have to individually figure out what is important to us, right? We wouldn't go anywhere because people are fallible. And the best organizations, look at Chick-fil-A. There's been times where there's a Chick-fil-A person that fell through the cracks and you didn't meet their standards, but we didn't know because you interviewed very well, or you just had a day where you just showed your behind. Do you just really penalize everybody there for one person's bad judgment? But speak to the culture. Now, do you have a culture in your company of certain behaviors? That's where you decide, I'm not going to place my money there. I'm not going to deal with that person. People misspeak all the time. Oh my gosh, don't go back and listen to stuff I said. I've stepped over and then, oh my goodness, I tell people all the time, I'll never be president. You know, the types of conversations that I have with my loved ones and best friends and inboxes going off, if that ever gets hacked, it won't be so loving. But I know who I am. And a joke for me, it may have been funny, but it may offend you. So one, I do believe that we have to really work on not being so offended. There are times where if you apply some empathy, you know that person. I'm not saying that in this situation. This is a very broad, general. If you tell me my hair is ugly, you want it to offend me. You want it to be natural. So that's not what I'm saying. But I think we all could play a role a little better in getting back to humanity, to getting back to some cordiality and just being courteous to one another. Everything you think, you ain't got to say. But we're in this keep it 100. Oh, I just keep it 100 at the risk of killing somebody's spirit. That's ugly. And I don't condone that. But no, I don't think that this is for me. But it's always different when it's your feelings that are hurt. When it's your feelings that are hurt, you want everybody to come to your rescue. So I totally understand. I do get that.
All right. And Jason, I'm going to be coming to you, asking you that same question. And also, Jason, I'm going to be asking you, what's the resolution? How do you move forward from this? If indeed you have to go back into that workplace. In this case, Talia chose not to return and she's pursuing her options of lawsuits and whatever else all options she have. But the question is going to be to you, Jason, when we're going to introduce Toki, but be ready for us to come back to you. Toki, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jay?
Excellent. Thank you for being able to join us. So you know this situation back and forth. You're very closely monitoring this situation. Just catch us up, fill us in, tell us what you want us to know. What's your thoughts about this whole situation? But first tell people who you are and what you do, because you're not just Toki, but you are the celebrity, world-renowned bartender, mixologist, expert. You do it all. Brand ambassador.
I'm just a bartender that worked really, really hard. Formerly ran the bar at the Four Seasons Hotel. Working on building my business and my brand right now, especially during these interesting times that we're in. So I did not know Talia before this happened. The night, maybe the day after it happened, I heard about it through another bartender, and I asked for Talia's number, and I reached out to Talia, and she explained to me what had happened. And I called up to Red Martini, and I think it's a cell phone, somebody's cell phone. And I asked to speak to a manager. They told me none was around, and then the owner called me back on my phone. I definitely think it's a situation of discrimination from what I gathered from the situation. I feel like if you can't wear your hair down at work, then nobody should be able to wear their hair down at work. If I have to pull it back, then the whole bar staff should have to pull it back. Hair is hair. If hair is gonna fall out your head, everybody's hair is shed, you know? So I thought it was an ugly situation. Some of the things that he said to her was inappropriate and it's inexcusable. And they make money off of people in our industry patronizing them. So it's like,
no, just for clarification, Toki, I think you were saying they make money off of Black people. Was that what you were trying to say?
Well, Black people and people that work in food and beverage. So okay. Yes, and yes. And you're in Atlanta, so yes.
Right, because they do have a large clientele of Black patrons. So thank you for that perspective. We have Jackie Summers, another legend in the liquor spirits industry out of New York. Thank you for joining the call. The call is just growing, and we're a little bit past our times. And so we're going to let this go on just a little bit longer just so I can get these legends on. So if any of my other guests have to leave, I definitely understand. If you're able to stay on with us a little bit while longer, I would definitely appreciate it. Jason, I'm still coming back to you next. But Jackie, tell the people who you are and what you do there in New York for this industry.
Jackie Summers, also known as Jack from Brooklyn, creator of Sorrel Liqueur, founder Jack from Brooklyn. I write, I teach about diversity. I fuck with shit, yo.
John, I think you got some competition with those curse words now.
Was that not supposed to swear? Because your motherfuckers
you can.
Okay, because your motherfuckers got me at the shower for this. I'm here for this.
Right. So, Jackie, tell us, what are your thoughts when you heard about this situation here in Atlanta, Georgia, about the Black female bartender losing her job based on wearing a natural hairstyle? Any thoughts on that?
My thought is, what the fuck year is this? Yo, this is motherfucking 2020. My hair is my hair, although I got none, and I'll wear it however the fuck way I want to. If I had hair, I'd have a goddamn afro. I could, listen, let me tell you something. When I had my afro, like in the 80s, because I'm old, there was a point where I had, I'm not kidding, a mohawk. I had a mohawk with cornrows, painted silver. If I can do my fucking job, who cares what my hair is like? Yo, people working with all kinds of hair. Why is black hair the kind that people give a shit over? No, the answer is no. Fuck this. Sue
Right.
the person who did this. Use money to start your own thing.
Jackie, you are lighting up the phone lines or the comment lines. They are saying I like Jackie. So
We don't got time for this shit anymore. Listen, our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents went through too much shit for us to be putting up with this nonsense nowadays. I realize that we're dealing with people who are still dealing with their grandparents' values. We are not here for it. We are not here for this. We are not taking little change anymore. We're not taking piecemeal change anymore.
So, Jackie, if you haven't heard, I have a little secret for you. Whereas a lot of people are going to get men are going to get the wigs, and they say it looks real good that you can't even tell the difference. But
are you kidding?
Hey, y'all.
This is the solar
I
panel
see
for
you,
the breakfast
Tony.
team.
But Jackie, let me ask you this question, and I'm coming to you, Toki. I haven't forgotten about you, Jason. But you all came in on this broadcast at a point where we were talking about, is this a protestable moment to you with all the protests that's going on around the nation, the unrest that's happening in our society? Should the people of Atlanta boycott and protest the Red Martini where this occurred at?
The only way to affect change is with people's wallet, right? If you look back at the 60s, the Montgomery bus boycott, the only way people got change was by not riding the bus. People walked. People rode together. They biked to work. And that company started losing money immediately. They were ready to settle after 2 months. Those brothers went for a full year walking to work. We can walk to another bar. If you can't deal with us the way we are, if you can't deal with us supporting your business, we can go somewhere else. Y'all ain't the only bar in Atlanta. Fuck this.
Right. And just to give perspective, there are other bars right where Red Martini is. There's probably about at least 2 to 3 other bars that's literally 2 to 3 steps away. But Toki, I want to come to you. Is this a protestable moment for you? Should people be protesting and boycotting the Red Martini over this matter?
I definitely think that the only thing that this particular owner is going to care about is what his pockets look like at the end of the day. I don't believe that he himself has apologized. I don't think he's trying to address the situation head on. And as long as he's making money, he's going to do it again. He's not a very nice person.
Yeah, getting hung up on didn't feel nice. We had Ariane join the line. She's another bartender in the Edgewood corridor here in Atlanta, Georgia. The Edgewood community, for those of you that are watching, is virtually downtown for the most part. It's considered the old Fourth Ward. She's worked at several bars. When she returns, we'll come back to her to get an introduction. I'm going to go to our comment line. Vetty says, Black women's hair is always the topic of conversation. Plus, some always want to touch and play with our hair. Ariane, give yourself a quick introduction for those that are watching and meeting you for the first time.
Hey, I'm Ariane Fielder. I've been in the Atlanta. Please.
We hear your bird more than we hear you.
I
know.
I'm trying to, but he is a brand new member of my family. He is a brand new member of my family, and it's obviously very different for him. Let me try to put him down again. I know. So I am here. Let me do that real quick if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. We're gonna come back to you in just a moment.
Let me put him down for a second. He is
okay.
Or I can even if I can just do that. I'm a Caucasian woman that has worked in the Atlanta bar industry for my entire life. For
all right. Ariane, I think we lost you. We're going to have to come back to you. But Jason, I'm going to come to you. What are your thoughts? Is this a protestable moment? And how do you move forward from this situation when you're in this situation?
I think one thing we have to remember is that we're playing chess, not checkers. Okay. The incident happened. A lot of people have tried to reach out to the owner, from my understanding, to gather his information and his thoughts about it. Now, it does not, and actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it to a post that I've seen on Facebook not too long ago, because I stay close to this stuff. There was an incident at Walmart. The gentleman went up there, he spoke to the manager, and he said, I'm going to give you the opportunity to fix this. And if you don't, then there's going to be an issue. Not nothing in a violent way, but I'm pretty sure he's talking about protesting and taking it up the chain of command. And here's what I need a lot of people to understand. Follow as many policies and procedures that you can up front. Don't go from zero to 100. That never works. It gets thrown out of court. There's a lot of things that's missed. And then as I'm hearing more about the conversation, and this is why you have to do your investigations. It said the young lady was offended. She had the opportunity to return to work, but she said she doesn't want to return to work. So now that's a whole different scenario. So ideally, what I would have suggested that she did is go back. Because the more, and it happens all the time, I've been a victim of this myself, right? I've been offended. I get mad at my job. I leave the job. What have I fixed? I have fixed absolutely nothing. Stay and fight till you can't fight no more. But also get some help from people around you who will help guide you through that path to be successful. That way, when you go into court, it's like, well, here's what happened. Here's our proof. There's nothing more that they could say. Now all they can do is just try to find loopholes, right? So the more I hear about this story from different parties, the more it really makes me want to dive into it a little bit more. Like, did you say you did not want to go back to work? Well, yeah, I said it because you were upset. I get it. You're frustrated. But sometimes you have to go back into the environment. And this is a tough process. As we see with George Floyd case and Breonna Marshall, luckily with George Floyd, it was right there. It shouldn't have took that long. It shouldn't have took everything that happened to happen in order for them to say, oh, well, we're going to start looking at the cops, right? But in reality, not every case is like that. So I want people to remember, play chess, not checkers. You will not win if you try to play checkers. I promise you.
There it is, Jason. I'm gonna have to use you. I thought we had Ariane back, but Jason, I got some matters I'm gonna use you for. Ariane, let's try this again. I'm gonna unmute you, and I want you to try to reintroduce yourself, and then tell us your thoughts about this whole situation, because you've been following it very closely, and you are good friends with Talia.
I'm not good friends with Talia. I know Talia actually from getting that message and to know what was going on with that, but I'm close to the situation. In Atlanta Bartender, I've been managing and working in Atlanta bars for almost 2 decades now, and I know this situation closely, and I was made aware of this, and that's how I made you aware of this, and I'm so glad that you brought this in.
Thank
I knew
you.
Jackie would be one of the first people that would be on this too. This is a real situation. This is a situation that I've always encountered, and I'm just done encountering as far as like when I go to hire somebody, is she that's not really what we're looking for. That's not really like, so I'm that's where I'm at is my name is Ariane Fielder. I'm a white bartender that has been part of the community in the Atlanta scene for 18 years, and I'm just here to be part of any part of this, because this has been an issue for a long time. So that's where I'm coming from.
It's interesting that you say that, because we talked about, Jason, before they came on, the look. And it's funny how
Yes.
she just described the look as a form of vetting Black people out from the role, is what I heard. And so, Jackie, I want to come up to you real quickly. What's your thoughts on what you just heard Ariane say?
Well, it's interesting to me. I noticed it. I mean, because like you said, if I go to apply for a job, I dress a certain way. I always have since I was 12 years old. I dressed for the situation, but the hat, I wasn't discounted because of my hair, okay, or something like that. And I've heard what Toki said about that this owner has been a type of owner that only cares about money. That's given us information that we didn't have before they got on the call, as to how you respond to an owner acting like that. If this is not his first time being lackadaisical or not caring about these issues, then yes, something needs to be done about it. If it systematically goes on in Atlanta and in Atlanta bar hiring, then that's something that needs to be talked about. I've thought about it and thought about, the times I applied, a lot of jobs in DC, and I don't really see it. But the funny thing is, it was like on TV the other night, they were talking about, it that way versus age discrimination in bartending. And have the same thing with race. I'm like, you may not fit the idea or their vision for their bar. So are you being not hired just because you don't fit their idea or because you can't do the job? So it's really tough in this industry, and you just really can't. Like Jason said, you just can't go back to the job. It's hard to go back to the job in this industry, okay, when just a manager or owner shits on you. We already go back after they shit on us daily. It already happens. But to go back after somebody shits on you like that, there's no way in hell. I'll go find a job somewhere else. They lucky I don't burn the place down, because that's how I'm thinking. Okay.
Right.
But you can't ask somebody to go back and be like, oh, after somebody shits on you like that. I've been at spots where I've heard things said inappropriately, and I brought it up, and then I just don't come back the next day because I'm not going to stay there for that. Okay. And the situation.
And Jackie, I'm going to be coming to you next, and Joe, you just definitely touched on some good points. And the thing of it is that I've worked in both industries, from corporate America all the way to owning my own bar, bartending over 20 years, and Jason, I think what they're ultimately saying is that in this industry, it is easy for people to just give you the finger and just walk off the job, and because they have the confidence that they can find another bartending job or hospitality job easy, because it is the nation's top 10 for sure, maybe even top 5 careers for people. But I do agree with Jason at the same time of staying in there and sticking with the fight. Like, I've had issues at bars and I don't give them the finger and walk out. I sit there and like, you're going to have to deal with me, because I'm not leaving. I'm not going nowhere. It could be my HR background, Jason, that kicks in. But my thing is, if you want me to leave, you're going to have to fire me, because I'm not going nowhere. But Jackie, I saw you, Joan and Jackie, you two Jays, y'all have been high-fiving each other since Jackie came on. Y'all are the best.
Jay, before you go there,
high-fiving you all the way as you were talking. But Jackie, go ahead. You got the floor.
What I want to know is, how do you pull this shit in Atlanta? Atlanta is basically ours from the Wiz. You can't get away with that shit in Atlanta or Baltimore or DC or Brooklyn or any city. Yo, like, y'all are dependent on black dollars for your business. It's not just Black Lives Matter, Black dollars matter. And we can shut you down. And it is literally the least thing you could ask to go, yo, don't complain about my hair. This is how my hair grows. This is my hair. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, we came from a generation. I was raised by people who were taught you have to fit in. You have to appease. You cannot upset folks, right? And so I was raised with that mentality. Thank God we got Ryan Coogler out there. Thank God we got Cardi B out there being their damn selves, as black as they can be, and going, what? You have to love me. You have to deal with me because I gave you culture.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you this culture. Drink culture, all of it in this country comes from black people. Research the articles that Dave Wondrich wrote, especially in the agrarian South. Like, it's proven in the South, plantation owners weren't fixing their own meals. People that look like us fixed their meals after we worked in the field. Do we really think the people who weren't fixing their own meals were making their own drinks? We made that. Again, look up the article by Dave Wondrich. We invented dive bar culture too, because when we were done fixing their drinks, we couldn't drink with them. We had to go out in the back and drink in a shack in the middle of a field. Mm-hmm. Cocktail culture and dive bar culture. Mm-hmm. What happened is we got put out of the profits. Fuck, like, it's now been proven that a slave taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey. We've been here from the beginning. You can't pull this shit on us no more. We're tired. We're tired and we are out of patience. Like, I agree with Jason. Like, there are steps to do this, right? So just to get mad isn't enough. Figure out who your allies are. Figure out what your process is going to be. But we don't got to put up with this shit no more. We can shut you down.
Right. And Jay, just
what's your thoughts, Jason? I'll come to you in just a moment. Toki, any thoughts you want to add to anything you've heard so far?
So what I would like to do is backtrack on, where they were saying, it's hard to go back into the job. And I get it because I've lived a life. So one of the questions I propose to the panel is, who is one of the greatest boxers known to man right now? One of the greatest boxers, the person that you think of.
Muhammad Ali.
There you go. There you go. How did Muhammad Ali win?
Stayed in the fight.
By being Muhammad Ali.
So if you go back and you research and look at Muhammad Ali, what Muhammad Ali did was he wore down his opponent. He took the hits. He took the blows. You know what I mean? And that's why, he really had that big concussion issue over time. They said, you can't keep just taking hits. And he said, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Because when they wear down, I'm going to throw one punch and I'm going to knock them out.
We've been taking blows for centuries. I'd rather be Mike Tyson.
No, Mike Tyson might be bite people. But no, what I'm saying is,
I don't want to say anything, but go ahead and say what Layla says, because Layla Ali also says the same thing.
I mean, yeah. I from a logistical standpoint, I understand what you're saying, right? It's hard to build a case. It's hard to fight back in, especially illegally, dealing with the courts and all this mess. I get that. I understand that. But
I'll fight for this.
It's time out for like the violence behind bars and the sexism behind bars and the discrimination and the racism. For one, I'm tired. I'm tired. Now, would you tell this same thing to a young lady that is being sexually harassed by her manager at work to continue to go to work so she can build a case to fight?
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, don't be scared to stand up to your bully.
Oh, no. By any means, do not be scared to do that. But I don't know if entering traumatic environments, it's time out for that. I'm not doing that no more.
Yeah, there's a softness on both sides. To build a case, to have a lawsuit, you have to stay in the fight. You know what I'm saying? To even come out as a long-term winner. Walking out the door doesn't help you, nor does it help anyone that's coming after you, because that manager and owner is going to do the same thing, because guess what? You didn't stand up. You walked out. You didn't hit them in the pockets in the sense of by suing them. And so they're going to continue on their same behavior. And so that's kind of what Jason's saying, but I understand what everyone else is saying too, is that, you just get tired. You simply just get tired and you walk out, because you can go 2 doors down and find another bartender. Ariane, I want to come to you. One of the things I've asked all the other guests, I haven't asked you yet. which is
Yeah.
this a protestable moment? Should people be protesting in front of Red Martini right now, particularly since we're in the unrest of what's going on in our nation?
Yes, absolutely. If anybody wants to do that, then I would. I have off tomorrow, and I will be out there completely. If that it's something that anybody wants to do, I absolutely feel like that's something that should happen. If you feel the same way, then I'm out there 100-fold. So just let me know.
Right. And just for the record, that's a good point. I have spoken to Talia personally. We've texted back and forth. We've talked over the phone. I asked her if she wanted me to plan a protest on her behalf because I am president of the Atlanta Nightlife Alliance. But she kindly declined that we protest after much thought because she had to think about it many days.
Well,
but she respectfully declined, and so that's one reason we haven't protested for those
Jay,
of you that's watching.
Just so that you know, one of my best friends that has been in the Atlanta bar industry for a long time, Daniel Scar, passed away about 2 weeks ago on the 28th of July. That used to actually. One of his best friends one of our nightlife community had passed away very suddenly, and so they've been doing vigils there. So I'm thinking that might be why she might be thinking that. So that might be why there might be any sort of pushback on that, was just because of his passing. Which was very, very sudden. He ran Opera nightclub, and that's the best way that I can put that. Is that in Toki knows too? Is that it's one of our dear friends. I don't know the best way to put that, but I think that might be because they had like one of his memorial services going on over there. Not that I would ever have gone to it, but I think that might be, not that it's an excuse, and definitely if I think that we should just do it because the situation definitely is more so than that.
Right. Well, in a case like this, I'm definitely agree with you, REM, but I don't like to make a move if we're not going to have the victim there themselves. But we're going to get ready to conclude this conversation because we've been going on much longer than I normally do keep my shows, but I appreciate everyone joining in. But one of the last questions, I'm going to do a thunder round, try to keep your answers under 60 seconds, is what's the resolution to all of this? How do we move forward? And Jason, I'm saving you for last since you're the HR expert on the call. And Joan, I'm going to start with you because you're next to Jason on my screen.
Resolution. I mean,
listen
to Ariane and Toki. They know more about the situation. So the resolution is to, for lack of better words, not sweep it under the table when these things happen. To bring them up, to talk about them, to use our voices, to make sure people are known. And if that doesn't work, then you do what me and Jackie would do and burn the place down.
I'm surprised you didn't say burn it the fuck down. But
I was trying to be good. Okay, I can't use those words.
So, Joan, real quickly.
But Jackie's using my 12.
Joan, real quickly, tell people how they can find you, and if you have anything going on. Are you selling any meals? How can people support what you're doing? Where can they find you, and how can they support you?
Well, right now, as you know, I'm trying to start the catering company. I know you'll be in town next week, so you'll get to try some more meals. Of course you will. They're free. But it's you can find me on Instagram and Insomniac Kitchen Eats. Or you go to I Eat Slate and you'll find me. I'm always cooking. And I need to get down to Atlanta because that's where my father's side of the family is. So I got to see my little sister and my cousins. So I'll probably be down there soon. And when I come down, I'm definitely cooking for my family down there. So everybody's welcome to come.
Nice. All right. If you need a place to stay, I got a little pull-out couch I can pull out for you.
As long as you got a grill and I can cook, I don't care where I sleep.
Yep. And I'm gonna go get one. How about that? So just let me know when. Ariane, tell people, how do we move forward from this? What's the solution? What's the resolution, in your opinion?
I can't say that I know the resolution or the solution. All I know is to get involved, and as white people, we need to stop talking and listening, and do a lot more listening. This every single time, it's like this is a lot more than I know that right now what we got to do. I actually do agree that we should be out there doing this for Talia. If she agrees with it, I want to be out there immediately to boycott Red Martini. But there's so many other places that we can do that for. So just listening more and being part of it more. I know I'm going to be out no matter what. But that's it. Just more feedback that I can get, and the more knowledge that I can get, and please, any of my friends telling me where I should be and what I should be doing, because there's so much things that need to be changed, even in Atlanta. And you said even in Atlanta, I mean, I can't believe how much we are still behind, even in Atlanta, and we're the first of everybody. So, anywho, that's it. I don't want to say anything else. I just want to keep listening.
Thank you so much, Ariane. I've never had the opportunity to thank you. You were one of the first people to reach out to me a couple years ago, when I was jumped on Edgewood Avenue and was on life support after attending. What's the name of that place? Joystick Game Bar. Yeah.
No, you were outside of Joystick, but it was it was right down the street from my place at Edgewood Avenue in Music Room. And,
yep. So you were one of the first people that reached out to me when I came out of my coma and off the ventilator. So thank you for that. Thank you for your continued support for the Black Lives Matter movement. In this case, for Black Bartenders movement. And Koki, I'm coming to you next, but I got to take a commercial break to say thanks to our sponsor, Plush Vodka. They're out of New York. Jackie Summers, I'm sure you've heard of them, or know Malcolm. Right there, since he's in your hometown. So I want to thank my sponsor for being here. If you have not tried Plush Vodka, I drink it straight, but you can add to it whatever you like. It's a premium vodka, and I always promote for people to drink black spirits. It's a $1 billion industry. You have black liquor manufacturers, and we just can't get enough of our own people to support us. So go and find black liquor products, and Plush Vodka is one of them. Toki, how do we move forward?
I for one think that, I mean, I have to agree with Jackie. I hate to say it, but I feel like either money and changing a lot of structures that are already in place, or, I think that it's going to get to a point where people are going to play the same game against those that have done this to us, if that makes sense. And that involves, burning shit down. So that's pretty much how that goes. To make effective change, you got to hit them in the pocket. And that's really the only, whether that's suing them, whether that's cutting into their business, whether that's boycotting, whatever that looks like, the message is not going to get across unless it affects their pocket, period. No one is, they don't care about how we feel. They don't care about hurting our feelings. They don't care about none. They just care about them.
Yep, definitely the case. As John Lewis would say, the late Congressman John Lewis would say, is getting some good trouble. That's what I just heard you say, Toki. Jackie, we are coming to you, and Jason, you are going to end us. But let me go back real quick. I got to go back. Ariane, coming back to you. Tell us, how can people support you? Where can they find you? Social media, your bar.
If you want to find me on social media, it's Arian Bar. You should really find Jackie because he knows anyways. He's been guiding me, to be honest with you. Jackie's been guiding me since the death of one of our mutual friends, Rocky. He's been guiding me, and he guides me all the time with this. I didn't know that you had me even on here. My bar has nothing to do with it. I'm my bar in my restaurant got shut down, closed. I'm at a different place every single week, it feels like. So this is more important. If anybody wants to find me, you can find me at the Anchor Bar in Kennesaw. It's Anchor Bar from New York that just opened here, but I would much rather everybody go see Black-owned businesses and the people that have been the most hit by this. And this is amazing just to even see, like, I'm sorry, Toki, it's hard to even, like, it's hard to see my friends. It's hard to see, like, my girlfriends, like, struggling through this. And this shit is awful. That's the best way to put it.
Thank you so much again for being here, Toki. How can people
We're
support
strong,
you?
girl.
Find you at?
You can find me on Instagram. Follow me at Miss Libation. Right now, I am not working behind anyone's bar because I am taking care of Toki right now, and building my brand and working on my website and things of that sort. So I'm taking a little bit of time from slinging drinks, but as soon as I feel comfortable popping my head back up, I'll be right back at it. So, but if you want to keep track of what I'm up to, please just follow me on Instagram at Miss Libation.
All right, Miss Libations. Jackie, what are your final thoughts? How do we move forward? But this person said, before I ask you that final question, how is your mom doing? They asked. And his name is Jackie Ford.
Mom is okay. She's just lonely. Like, I got her in a hermetic seal right now. The only person that sees her is me, and that means I'm seeing nobody. It's the only way I can keep her safe. Thank you for asking. My mom is 92, lives by herself. And she's full of spit and fire, but, like, I gotta keep her safe from this damn coronavirus. So,
Gotcha. Final thoughts?
Two things. The first is, all y'all are real ones. All y'all are real ones. The second thing is, there's not one right way to be black. Like, we could all be black in our own way, including you, Ariane. The thing to remember about what we can learn from the 60s civil rights movement is they didn't always agree on everything. People had different ideas on how fast, how slow, what direction things should take. As long as we all move together, we can go in our own ways, at our own pace. We can be where we are in our own education and spiritual growth, but we must move forward together. We don't have to do it the same way, but all y'all are real ones, and I appreciate this. The last thing I want to say is there's always ebb and flow with social progress. And right now we have flow. Right now, there's plenty of conversation around the world, around the whole world, about how we can actually make some progress. So while we have the flow, before the ebb sets in again, because it will, before the pushback comes in again, before it will, right now is a good time to ask all of these people, how are you undoing your complicity in white supremacy? Because if you are not, we're not here for you anymore. We are not going to participate in anything that continues to support white supremacy anymore. Period. End of story. Y'all can do without us. Y'all have made fortunes off of our backs and our labor and our creativity for centuries, and we are done with it. We have had it. So unless businesses, and I do mean businesses, are willing to take a real look at how they're willing to undo their complicity in white supremacy, we don't need to support them anymore. We can do this ourselves.
There it is, keeping it 100 on the 100 Proof Show. To our final guest, Jason Hayes, our HR expert of diversity and inclusion. Jason, what's your final thoughts? How do people move forward in a situation like this when they're faced with this type of discrimination, whether it's in the corporate world or in the service world?
Okay, so one thing I want to say first is to the ladies, to the women. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people are unaware of, where you are touched inappropriately, things are said to you inappropriately. I will tell you, if you are touched inappropriately at work and you bring it up to your supervisor and they refuse to do anything about it, call the police. It's assault. It's a form of assault. You didn't want it, and that will slim down. If they know you're not scared to say something, then it'll kind of negate that and let other males who feel like it's okay to do that also tone them down as well. You don't have to take care of yourself. That's what us men are for. I know our African American men will jump up in a heartbeat and drag somebody over a bar. I have done it before. But most men do not want to see any woman be discriminated against because that's our mothers, that's our sisters, that's our aunts, that's our. So first do that. Second of all, Atlanta is small. Okay, it's big, but it's small. That's what I always say. So everybody knows everybody. So one thing I would suggest, everybody hit them in their pockets, hit them in their pockets. Well, go to the other business owners, the owners of Opera, the owner of any other establishments. And they don't even have to be an African American business owner. They just have to be somebody who agrees like this is wrong and block that business out. Trust me, I've seen tons of clubs start up and drop real fast just because the other owner said, we don't want your business here. All right. So, talk to your network of other owners and start hitting them in the pockets that way. And also, yes, go knock on the door. And for Ariana and Toki, what I would suggest is talk to Talia and say, hey, look, I understand this is tough. I understand this might, you might just want to move on. But if you keep moving on now, what's going to happen if it happens again? What are you teaching other people? You have support. We're letting you know you have supports. There are lawyers who will take this on pro bono, but they got to have something to fight with, right? So what I would suggest is mentor, coach, and teach her the best ways to handle this, because guess what? She's going to have to do it for somebody else, whether it's in corporate America or whether it's in, the hospitality industry. It has to be dealt with. I don't care if they have a handbook or not. Treating somebody with courteous and kindness, you don't need a handbook for that. And if you do, then you need to get some hands dealt with. You know what I'm saying? Like throw them hands. I don't care, because I go more Malcolm than Martin in a heartbeat.
There it is from the HR expert. And Toki, I'll get to you in just a moment. But I want to thank all of our guests for tuning in. Some tuned in at the last minute. And so I appreciate you all for tuning in. This was definitely a hot topic, a hot button here in Atlanta, Georgia. If you just tuned in at the last hour, it was just about a Black bartender losing her job ultimately, or due to her natural hairstyle, which was an afro. And so it was her second day on the job, while other bartenders of a different persuasion, white, were able to wear their hair down in addition to press their hair while behind the bar. The 100 Proof Show is all about empowering consumers on their beverage choices, the social justice movements, CBD, and nightlife. It's one of the only shows where we have intelligent, educated conversations over a cocktail. And so, Toki, I'm going to be coming to you, but Ariane, were you drinking with us tonight? This is a drinking show. Were you having a cocktail with us? If not, tell us what your favorite cocktail is, and I'm unmuting you right now. What's your favorite cocktail?
You're unmuting me. Anything with whiskey and anything with whiskey or like a good cognac, but really like or tequila. Really, I mean, it depends.
All
So
right.
right now, I think that you should go straight to Toki, that's got like a really amazing dog right now and has something to say about something that that Jason said earlier.
Yep. And so
I
make
would
sure everyone go
prefer
and
that you go to her.
share the show from my page.
Yeah. I think you should go to her because he said something about I think you should go there.
All right, definitely. So thanks so much, Ariane. And so, Jackie, what are you sipping on? It looked like coconut water.
I'm trying to hydrate because I've been drinking rum all day.
All right, you have to send me some of your bottles, man. You know, I haven't tasted your product.
There's fun stuff in the works, but you're not gonna probably get anything till springtime. Like this was an awful year because of COVID. It messed up everybody's schedules. I'm really glad that my plans got delayed, but by springtime next year, and Georgia is not a control state, but it's a franchise state. So getting a distributor in your state, it's tricky. I'll figure it out
for you.
I'll get to you.
We can help you with that. We can help you with that.
I'll get.
Yep. Give me a call.
We know
but you're
all the
drinking
distributors.
coconut water, right? Is that correct? You're drinking coconut water?
Yes. Gotta stay hydrated.
What's the benefits of drinking coconut water?
What's
Tell people the benefits.
Oh, the benefit of water is life.
Of coconut water?
You want to stay alive? Drink lots of water. Like we got people
electrolytes
who drink coconut water. Is there any specific benefit to coconut water? Because I thought that's what you're drinking, coconut water, right?
I'm drinking coconut water because my other water is actually, I do a cold brew every single day. I do 3 parts butterfly tea leaves, the 1 part hibiscus flowers. So my water is purple, but that's still, I do a cold brew that's still brewing. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for my cold brew to be done, I'm drinking coconut water. And like for me, as a descendant of Caribbean people, this is basically mother's milk. I don't drink dairy. I drink coconut water.
Okay, interesting. Toki, you had something to say, but also tell us what because you're not sipping with us tonight, but tell us what you normally sip on.
A lot of wine during COVID, trying to stay off the hard liquor for a while. But I cannot resist a last word. That is one of my favorite cocktails. I just can't resist it. So and then also what I was gonna say, not to elongate the conversation further. I wanted to ask Jason, does he live in Atlanta?
Yeah,
Jason
I do.
live in Atlanta? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I put in my head when you're talking about the different businesses and business owners in Atlanta, I grew up in Atlanta, and one thing I know that definitely desperately needs to change is how business owners seem to get away with not running their business like legit. I feel like that's a Atlanta kind of thing where a lot of business owners get away with doing all kinds of stuff, run bars without an liquor license, treat employees all crazy. And it's I don't know what the process or what needs to happen to get a handle on that. That's a notorious Atlanta thing as far as just shady business owner. That's all I wanted to add to that.
If I can answer that in 30 seconds, not and not from a long standpoint, but just to get the ball rolling. And I'm not hard to find. So if you want to sit down and have conversation about this, let me know. But first, I think because Atlanta is a right to work state, people have that misconstrued on so many levels, especially owners, right? They think that because it's a right to work state, I can fire you for wearing a blue shirt when I wanted you to come in wearing a red shirt. No, discrimination is discrimination. There's state law versus federal law. Okay, federal law, federal law trumps state law, and that's what your saving grace is in Atlanta. As long as you realize this person is breaking a federal law, it trumps state law. Nobody cares about state anymore from a federal standpoint. So if you think about some of the cases where where discriminations took place, when they said, okay, this is an issue, the state can't handle it, they brought in the federal government. The federal government trumps the state law.
All right, there it is. I had some final words from one of our other panelists who had to drop off, the loving Leanne. She said, my last words are only go where you're celebrated. When accepting a position, make sure you understand expectations and you're willing to exceed those expectations. If you're an owner, set your culture and develop a team who can appreciate and agree with it. When you witness actions that are dehumanizing, immoral, unethical, and unprofessional, address it. Don't wait until you're the one offended to demand respect. You can find The Loving Leanne at The Loving Leanne. Leanne is spelled Leann on IG. She is at Linktree on IG. And The Loving Leanne was a guest here earlier. She is a hospitality expert. She writes handbooks, Toki, kind of what you just talked about with Jason. She writes handbooks for restaurant bars specifically. So I want to thank everybody that tuned in tonight. Tune in every single Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. We keep it 100 right here on the 100 Proof Show every single week, talking about real topics that impact you as consumers to make you a smarter consumer, a better consumer, a more knowledgeable consumer when it comes to the social justice movements, to nightlife, to CBD, and your beverages. Once again, thanks to Plush Vodka being my sponsor tonight. You all take care. And I see my frat brother, Joan, giving me the A5. You all have a good night. And be sure, for all of my panelists, go to my Facebook page and share this right now so that your people can watch and learn. All right? Thanks again. Peace and out. Keeping it 100.